Hey guys, I'm driving home. Did a couple service calls today. Had to change out a condenser fan motor on a Trane heat pump. It was locked up. Changed out the condenser fan motor. It's 2007 model, so I'm a little surprised because typically the Trane condenser fan motors are pretty tough. Then I went to check out a pool heat pump, a pool water heat pump with my brother, and it's one of the first ones of those I've ever seen, so it's kind of a neat thing, you know. Not a whole lot different than a regular heat pump, just a few different controls. But it was interesting. It was just a blown capacitor, so it was pretty easy. But what I wanted to entitle this blog is Just to Be Safe. Just to be safe. Something that you hear a lot. Let's change out this system just to be safe. Now, as time goes by and people get more experience, the usage of just to be safe will be curtailed because they'll realize that certain things that you did just to be safe were no longer necessary. For example, and this is my belief, this is not HVAC fact, this is just what I believe. Just to be safe, you have a Goodman evaporator that's leaking. I know, right? It would never happen. No, there's a Goodman evaporator that's leaking, and because you're changing the evaporator and you get the box, they give you a dryer. But most of the time when you change an evaporator, what do? You pump down the system so you can change the evaporator. But forsooth, the dryer is inside of the Goodman condenser / heat pump. So, who among you would remove all the refrigerant and change that dryer in the heat pump? And that's where I would say to the customer, or where someone would say, not me, because I'm not doing that. Someone would say, we need to get all this refrigerant out, change this dryer just to be safe. I don't think that's necessary. Many people would argue with me, but I think if you change an evaporator, you know what you're doing, and you do your vacuum, I think you're safe. No dryer necessary. But how far does that go? I mean, you can always take that to the next step. I mean, just think about it. We're changing out your evaporator. We're going to change out your dryer just to be safe. And because we're opening up the system, even taking all the refrigerant out, we're going to replace all your refrigerant just to be safe. If we're replacing all the refrigerant, and this machine runs R22, let's just change out the whole system. Just to be safe. We change out the line set too. Because even though that the line set looks good, doesn't appear to have any problems, we need to put in a new line set just to be safe. You know what? Since this air conditioner and evaporator needs to be replaced, you already have to spend the money on that. Might as well just build a whole new house, because this house is old, and the next thing you know, your stove's going to break. So might as well replace everything just to be safe. And you know what? Now that I think about it, if you're going to replace the driveway and build a new house, what if your car starts to leak oil because it's old? Might as well replace it too, just to be safe. That's sort of what I'm getting at. That's kind of facetious, but we're talking about, are you taking too many steps you don't have to because you're trying to be safe? One of the reasons why I thought of this was, of late, I have been changing R22 systems to R407C by using the Jim Pedinato method of adding a little bit of ester oil on top of the mineral oil. So far, I have had no issues. I mean, it's very young in the process. Jim's done it longer than I have. So, I mean, Jim has been changing his refrigeration systems to R407F and adding ester oil, not taking the mineral out, with no issues. But a lot of people have said you should be taking all the mineral oil out. That means cutting the compressor out, dumping it out, which turns it into a very involved job. And now, not to say that you wouldn't do extra work if it was necessary, but is the work necessary? That's what we're getting at. I believe it's not. I believe you can add the POE on top of the mineral oil. They'll live happily ever after. And you'll have a nice 407C system for several years until you want to upgrade to whatever the current refrigerant is at that time. R410A, R32, or Y7774647, whatever the shit they think of. You know, carbon dioxide, water. Who knows? The point is, now if you switch from R22 to R407C, you have a less expensive refrigerant. It's almost as good as R22 as far as, you know, heating and cooling. It's safer for the environment for those who, you know, a lot of people have a high priority on the environment. It's safer as far as ozone depletion than R22. It really comes down to, are you adding extra steps that you don't need to? Or are they necessary, or am I wrong? You let me know, people out there, am I wrong? So far it seems to work fine for me. You know, there hasn't been any sludge created from the two oils. Two oils haven't, you know, been fighting inside of the refrigeration pipe. The pipes aren't exploding in disgust.